Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really excited. This is the second workshop that we have. To be honest with you, the last session was amazing in February 26th, this year, 2020. And today we have another amazing session, and also keynote speaker and also panelists, 3 amazing panelists. This is sponsored by these series are actually 3 different workshops. So there's another workshop also coming up. So today, Saturday, March 19, 2020, welcome. And this session is sponsored by York University in partnership with Founders College. Really, this would not have been possible if Founders College did not partner up to do with alumni and current students who are taking the lead on and organize these amazing sessions. I just want to say thank you to everyone. Just a quick organizing that we need to do is I know we have Samira who's going to be if you have questions, she will be on the chat. I will be facilitating. So I am Deccan Noor. I am currently graduating York University. I am completed my ABA, International Development Studies, and minor in African Studies. And I'm also doing a certificate from CRS, Center for Refugee Studies. So welcome. We're going to go into the keynote speaker and also the panelists that we have, but I also wanted to talk about today's session. It's very important that we talk about anti-Black racism, and especially with your community, not just students and faculty and alumni, but also with the community, a broad community also. We do have always invite the panelists to be at least current student, alumni, and invite some of our community outside of York. So this session is brought to you by York University Faculty of Liberal Arts and Professional Studies. This session is focusing on navigating microaggression within organizations, the unconscious biases in the hiring process. So we know that when we talk about anti-Black racism, we know that there are multi issues out there. So today's session really is an amazing session because we do have our keynote speakers are people that are out there that you know, being either York or other, you know, education institutions, but currently are also involved in many professional positions. So we're gonna go to our next. Sorry. Sorry, with like at the back. Okay, let me go back to the front. So the agenda, we're just going to talk about quickly how our workshop will go. We'll start with land acknowledgement. And also after that, we'll do like setting up this space, right? We wanna, this is space to be a space that people came to exchange and have a discussion, but to also learn and unlearn the things that are norm, like, you know, the norms in our society, and especially in institutions and entities, governments and organizations and society in large. Then we're going to go deep into the guidelines of how we should really hold this space today, and ways that we can all continue our discussion. We will also meet today the amazing keynote speaker and also our 3 panelists. Our keynote speaker, of course, Rosanne Bailey. We just want to say thank you for giving us your amazing, wonderful time. And we're so happy to have you, and especially an alumni. So I'm so excited. Then we'll go into Q&A period. And after that, we'll close the session. But you know, we don't want this to be more animated, you know what I mean? Like, let it be more organic, really. Like, you'll see people come in and share, even like, you know, I'll talk about in the guidelines, because this would be a space that people will share sometimes personal stuff. And we are here to make sure that we do the discussion in the most respectful way, and then we'll end the sessions. And yes, and the land acknowledgement, you know, it's always great to recognize, and not only recognize, but to also know the space and the land that we're situated, that we're at, across this beautiful land. And I believe that with our workshop, with, you know, without it, then we felt it's not something that we want to move forward doing it. But I'm just so happy that that not only knowing the land that we're situated in, but to really deeply acknowledge some of the things that we have to learn, because some of us have to learn, and I appreciate that. We wanted to acknowledge that this workshop takes place in a traditional territory, home to many indigenous peoples. The area known as Takaronto or Toronto has been taken care of by the Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Hurna-Wende, and the Métis. We must uphold these three treaties and the current treaty holder, the Mississauga of the Credit First Nation. The territory is subject to the dish with one spoon, wampum belt conference, an agreement to share and care for the Great Lakes region peacefully. We must actively recognize the genocide, the ethnic cleansing, and the colonial violence that has taken place on this land, and address ways we can collectively support Indigenous communities. And when land acknowledge are read, it's not just, you know, read and oh, we read and we acknowledge the land. No, to understand really, you know, what are the things that we, because a lot of times people read things like the dish with one spoon, one paper. You need to know what that is. What are the three things that needs to happen before people gather? So we need to acknowledge and understand the genocide, the ethnic cleansing, and currently, even here, the lands that we're on, the violence, the colonial violence that happened. So understanding it and acknowledging the land that we're situated is a way that we collectively support our Indigenous community and be advocacy along the issues in the past, present, and future. Thank you so much. And now we're moving into setting up this space, really, because this is a very, very important space, you know. This workshop and the few others to follow hope to address the impact of anti-Black racism in spaces beyond academia, such spaces like employment, government, institutions, healthcare sector, etc. We hope that conversations and discussions shared in this workshop and subsequent workshops push you all to work against the status quo and make transformative change. We're all here to learn and unlearn practices that have become the norm and to examine ways to challenge how we engage with systemic systems that historically and presently impact our overall well-being. And as we move into the guidelines, and I spoke about the guidelines earlier, without the guidelines, it would be very difficult to really have a discussion because we have to be respectful of each other, to the panelists, keynote speaker, volunteers, and facilitators. Feel free to contribute to the conversation and ask questions during the workshop. Active listening, not solely listening, just listening. I know with Zoom, it is difficult sometimes to listen with all the, but with the intention of responding, but with the intention of understanding. Feel free to step out and take a break during this session if needed. If you need to stretch, if you need to grab water, if you need to just, turn off your camera and just stand up, please feel free to do that. I know sometimes being in online platforms could be, tiring in times. And I know a lot of people need to stretch, and please feel free to do that. Thank you. And this is the poster that I know many of you probably came across the poster, but this is the poster that we had for the anti-Black racism workshop sessions for York University. The first session, the anti-Black racism within the education system, we had our keynote speaker, Arwa Ambanza from Toronto Community Housing. We had it on Saturday, February 26th. And today we have our second session, navigating microaggression within academia. And we have our keynote speaker, Rosanne Bailey. And please do join us. Our last but not least session, the need for Black representation in a different fields, that will be happening on Saturday, April 9, same time. And our keynote speaker, Jacqueline Santa-Kit. And if you need to register, we do have the registration of a link on the poster, or sometimes we'll share a link that way it would be easier for anybody to access and fill up the workshop. Okay, now we move into our the reason why we have this, the people that are here to present, our amazing keynote speaker, our panelist, and I'm so excited really to always come across Rosanne. Rosanne is our keynote speaker for today. And I just want to say a couple of words about Rosanne. And then we will let Rosanne take over her presentation, yeah. So Rosanne is a graduate of York University, where she earned bachelor's in fine arts and the education plus masters of education. Ms. Bailey is a filmmaker, community engagement specialist, anti-Black racism facilitator, and health educator. She has explored the links between systemic racism, youth gang violence, our urban education, and the social determinant of health. Using arts-based intervention, she created culturally relevant and responsive health education resource for urban Canadian youth, with over 20 years of frontline health promotion experience, including the City of Toronto's Community Crisis Response Program. She has investigated sociocultural factors that inform the health and the behavioral practice of a racialized population. Mrs. Bailey is currently working as acting special projects consultant with the Equity, Inclusion, and Human Rights Unit at Toronto Police Services. So I am delighted to welcome our keynote speaker to share her presentation today. And I just want to in advance thank her for giving us her time. I know how busy Rosanne is. I want to say, Rosanne Bailey, please welcome.
Thank you so much.
And if you want to share your screen,
Yes.
we'll make you a co-host. I know you have a presentation, an amazing presentation, and then I'll stop my sharing.
Okay, I would like to do that.
Okay.
Did you want to introduce the next panelists, or did you want to do that afterwards?
I'm just gonna maybe do that quickly.
Okay.
And then I will let you come on. But in the meanwhile, I think someone can make you a co-host. Thank you so much. But again, we have an amazing panelists. I am so excited for them to be sharing with their story with us after the keynote speaker completes her presentation. The next person that we have is Aniska. Aniska is a recent graduated from the Palestine School of International Affairs, Wilfrid Laurier University, with a Master of International Public Policy degree. She has a bachelor's degree from York University in International Development Studies and African Studies. Aniska is currently working with the Ministry of Infrastructure as a planning analyst. Her past experience included research assistant with Palestine School and as a junior consultant with UNSCR regional office for South Asia. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Aniska, for joining us today. And we have two more amazing panelists. We have Arwa. Arwa is a learning specialist at the University of Ottawa. Arwa is joining us today from Ottawa. She's passionate about disability rights, workers' rights, economic justice, and human rights for all. She's also a freelancer, a real-time occupational provider with experience working for clients with disability in the public and private sector. Arwa graduated with honors Bachelor of Science in Kinesiology and Psychology from University of Toronto, University of Ottawa, excuse me. She has, sorry, I lost that. She has proudly worked many jobs in retail, customer service, and now she does added a complete degree of students with disability at the University of Ottawa at the undergraduate and graduate and doctoral level. Thank you so much, Arwa, for joining us. And last but not least, we have Anab. Anab is a driven and outgoing first-year MES here at York, Masters of Environmental Studies, graduate student passionate about working with and mobilizing community around environmental and urban issues in cities, especially around affordable housing challenges. She graduated from York University in 2020 with bachelor's degree in global health, specialized in environment. She's a member of the EUC Black Caucus and is currently a research and administration assistant for the Hoya Innovation Hub that focuses on reducing social and economic barriers for Somali mothers in the Great Toronto Area in GTA. That is an amazing, amazing work that you're doing. Thank you so much, Anna, for joining us. And now we're going to go back to our keynote speaker, Rosanne Bailey, and then I'm gonna stop sharing. Sorry, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and then let Rosanne take and present her presentation. Rosanne, welcome. Rosanne Bailey, welcome.
Thank you very much. I hope everyone can see me. I am going to learn how to present on this.
You're doing amazing.
I had it before. Okay. There we are. So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation. I am going to start a timer because I want to make sure I don't actually go over my time. And I didn't have like formal notes, so I'm going to kind of talk off the cuff and just give some examples of the work that I've done. So navigate microaggressions within academia, organizations, and the unconscious bias of hiring practices. I think for me to be able to have these conversations, and I know that everyone will bring their own lived experience into this, I thought it would be easier if I brought my own lived experience and the whole me and what that microaggression might look like. So there's a couple of definitions I think that I would like to present that I'm working from. I don't know if everybody else is on the same wavelength, so I just want to make sure that at least if I say what I'm talking about, then it's a little bit easier for everybody to understand. So for my understanding, anti-Black racism is really a dislike of anything that is Black, and that could be hair, music, food, skin color, clothing, style of dress, who somebody might date, the culture, all of that encompassing. And coming from a Eurocentric, white supremacist way of thinking about others and othering, and how that becomes almost a diversity of. So when you say diversity and equity, it really is diverse from something else. And so the diverse is from whiteness. And so when we talk about that, when we're talking about anti-Black racism, we talk specifically about that. I think there's a lot of individuals that take the brunt of that, and that would be either young Black men, or that you'll have Black women as part of that. And some of those are a bit of a binaries. I think when we start talking about intersectionality, it's not just about the race aspect, even though it's a social construct, but we're talking about class, education, gender, abilities, language, and abilities is both cognitive as well as physical, cultural, where somebody might be located in terms of their physical housing as well, and ways of expressing trauma informed, a way that somebody might have experienced trauma either here or that they've brought that from an immigration standpoint. And so when I actually am also talking about taking up space, as Blackness taking up space, it means how are we then representing, standing in our truth and being able to speak from our own experiences without having to apologize, making ourselves smaller in order to be able to fit into mainstream society. So I am going to figure out how to do this next one. So I'm just trying to figure out how to, there we go, advance my slide. I think I got it. So I'm doing this Prezi because I thought it would be easier than a PowerPoint, but it's may not be. So just looking back at my own path and navigating my own path around it, microaggression. So I speak a little bit about my undergrad experience from York University. I talk about my graduate experience at York University doing a master's in education. I talk about the community work that I've done in community while I was doing my master's, while I was actually still doing my undergrad, and then speaking about the work that I'm currently doing with the Toronto Police Service. So I thought the best way might be actually sharing a video a little bit about myself. So this was something that I did in my master's class, and we're talking utilizing visuals to be able to tell stories. So this methodology is called digital storytelling, and where I've taken photographs and to tell the story, and the story really is talking about me, myself, and understanding who I am. So I'm gonna play this, and I hope the sound should work. My earliest memories of my childhood were roaming freely through the streets of our small countryside Milk River community. At the age of 4 or 5, everything seemed so overwhelmingly grand. I remember the cane fields along the side of the road and behind our small house. I knew not to get lost in that maze, so I stayed outside. I remember the gully filled with water, but now runs dry. I remember sitting on the riverbanks watching people being baptized. I remember the religious processions through the town. I would sit on the curb and watch in delight. I remember eating roast fish, the one called buck, of which I was named after because my forehead was so big. I remember the fishing boats coming in and people buying and selling goods off the boat. But I can't remember you. I remember the small one-bedroom shack that all 5 of us lived in, that stood in front of the cane field. I remembered it because it's the only thing that reminded me of you. I can't remember your face, but I could distinctly remember the house. I searched through the faces of my siblings looking for common characteristics, looking for you. Vivian, the unknown child that died, Vinette, Wayne, Mikey that died, Jackie, Crawford, me, Shelley, Arlene, Chancey, Antoinette that died, and Howard. I'm told that I'm the splitting image of you, yet I can't see you, and I don't even have a picture to claim it. Being adopted and leaving you at the age of 5 left me looking for something and someone else to make me stronger
when I found out that you died at the age of 11. I don't know Barton's, the place you grew up, yet I visit there every time I come back to Jamaica, just so I can see you. You died at such a young age of 38, and you had 13 children to substantiate your existence. There's so much shame placed on your life and the amount of children you had, the ones that you could not care for, and the ones that you had with different men. Uneducated, poor, but kind and beautiful is what I heard. These badges were carried around differently by everybody, but transferred on to your innocent children as we tried so hard not to be like you. The love you were looking for, I'm not sure you found it. Or maybe you thought you did in these men. The life you gave us, I hope that was enough. I don't see you as a victim, but I see you as a woman who made her own choices. I just wanted to say thank you for giving me life, allowing me to have an opportunity for a better life and a family to come back to. You would be proud of all of us if you saw the legacy you created. I'm still searching for you to say thank you.
So that was a presentation that I had created for one of my master's class, and just having conversations about who I was and who makes up me. And so we all come to this work and the work that we do for different reasons, mainly because we are looking to either correct something that has happened in our past, or we're making the difference for people who are maybe potentially going through the same thing that we're going through. So the reason why I wanted to share this was to give a little bit of an understanding of what my life, or what brought me to the work that I'm doing. And so even as we talk about microaggressions, we can talk about the ones that we ourselves and our own racialized communities create upon ourselves. And then we can also talk about the microcosmo of what the larger society would actually impact on us and having impacting on the way we live. And so I tell the story of my mom, who was a teenage mom, had her first child at 14 actually, and subsequently had multiple children afterwards. She was uneducated, so education definitely was a factor. The fact that she was a teenage mom brought shame to our family. The fact that she's made choices to have sex, and for some people, either slut shaming or things that now become part of a legacy that somebody doesn't want to talk about, but then you have the evidence of the children that's there and you can't hide those. Growing up, in the story, I talk about trying to find my mother because I was adopted at the age of 5, but then I was placed in a Children's Aid Society at the age of about 12, shortly after my mother had passed away in Jamaica, and I had never seen her from the age of 5. In saying that, growing up in the child welfare system provided me with a little bit of comfort, particularly as an immigrant child, where I was brought into a domestic violence. And for that, not having an understanding of the system in Canada, but never even experienced violence from Jamaica as well. We might have been poor, and poverty is definitely one of those other things that you internalize and you understand what poor and poverty looks like, but also abuse and trauma then becomes something else that it tells a different story of what your upbringing is. So growing up in the Children's Aid Society, I remained there as a Crown Ward until the age of 21. Literally, they kicked me out. And I was kicked out while I was in going in my first year at York University. And for me, I had to build family externally. I also had to build resources because really I depended on OSAP and had to figure out ways of surviving, really, right? And so I ended up joining the school newspaper because Excalibur, and for those people who are still know it, the reason being is that I was a photographer. In all honesty, I probably may not have been the smartest kid academically, but I definitely had some street smarts about me. And I knew that I wanted to go to university because also I went to a school that was predominantly white, and I was going to an art school. So I had a gift of my visual artistic abilities. And so when everybody else was talking about going to university, they're like, "Where are you going, Rosanne?" And I'm like, "Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that." And it was easy because I was at a school that didn't see me just as a Black child, because there wasn't necessarily as many Black children. And the standard of education that they provided had to be equitable and equal to everybody. And so, like other brothers and sisters that might have been in schools that were in predominantly Black areas where you didn't have teachers who believed in them and being able to push them along, I was fortunate, and I can say that I was fortunate to not have that happen. So as I came into York University, I looked at ways that I could actually participate as I was trying to find myself. And Excalibur was one of those places. So I started off as a photo editor because I was doing photography at school. And then it developed into a number of things where we had started an African Liberation Month supplement that was in Excalibur that talked about Black history, that talked about African liberation. And this was the first time we were able to do this. So for one issue of the month, we basically took over the paper, including all the staff, contributing editors, everybody. And so I was one of those individuals who contributed editors that coordinated multiple sessions within that. But at York University, I really looked at ways that I can contribute. And part of that was also within the Faculty of Education. So I knew that I wanted to teach because I know damn well as a Black person, I was going to be a starving artist for the rest of my life. And so I said that I wanted to teach. And partly, as I said before, was to try and see what I could actually do to help other kids that might have been in the same situation that I had been. And I did find some of those. And so Excalibur provided me with a couple of things. It provided me with some skill sets. It provided me with computer time that I probably might not have had in graphic design. I had access to the latest programs. And this then also allowed me to get access to an opportunity when I went to Ghana, West Africa. I was able to land a job in an advertising company. That they made me a studio manager right out of university. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I had the programs and I had the skill set and I had the whereabouts of the design aspect, especially in print at the time. And I think that was probably 1989. So as I go into thinking about education, as I start thinking about, okay, well, I'm doing 3 years at York University in the Faculty of Education and seeing how the education system was treating Black kids, predominantly Black males. I, for some reason, said, you know what, I'm not sure I want to go into teaching, but I really enjoyed health that I was going into and ended up going to Ghana. The main reason I was going to Ghana was to work with Planned Parenthood of Ghana within their sexual health education. Because at that time I was working at Black Coalition for AIDS Prevention. I was volunteering and doing a lot of work around that. So that's kind of where I ended up. There was things of microaggressions that I found within the Faculty of Education where, I was trying really hard. I was working extremely hard, much harder than some of my counterparts. And I wasn't getting the marks that I thought I should have been getting, but they were getting easy A's, and I was literally struggling along. There's things like how I pronunciate stuff. So I'll say, I'm eating an apple. And, I'd be corrected that say, you don't pronounce the G. Eating an apple. And that is actually providing really bad examples for kids who are listening to you, because you're dropping the G at the end of your words. And so you need to set an example of how to pronunciate stuff. And I'm looking at all of my other Caribbean friends, and they're doing the same thing, even my African friends. And that's just how we talk. However, it was one of those ways to say that your English is not up to par, or it's not at the same standards as we'd expect, especially as an educator. Going into my master's in education was on twofold. I was continuing the research and the work that I was doing around Black identity, Black males. I was looking at health education, particularly for Black low socioeconomic communities, and taking a look at how the impact of health also dictated the social determinants of health, but also health education around that. I worked on a couple of projects, one of them with YACE, the other one with Peel District School Board, that actually looked at young Black men in the education system at Peel region who were experiencing microaggressions. And some kids were falling behind, and by no fault of their own. They've been promoted from grades to grades to grades, but then not actually learning how to read in that process. Or then you had kids who were excelling and getting A's all the way through, and then they were still being highly surveilled by teachers. They were now being doubted in terms of their skill sets, and you shouldn't really be taking that advanced class. Maybe you should be streaming into something that was actually less of their benefits. And so with YACE, we started to take a look at YACE, which is Youth Association for Academics, Athletics and Character Education. They run pretty much out of the Jane and Finch area, and doing some amazing work around gang prevention, gang violence work. But a lot of the work that they've been doing is around research, specifically looking at place-based incarceration rates, dropout rates, and also looking at how community-based agencies or community-based organizations provide educational attainments for students who've dropped out. Because the education to prison pipeline, where kids drop out, then they have nothing else to do within the while they're out of school, then now also leaves them to be more susceptible to police harassment, to get involved in various activities. But then, as somebody who's also graduated from as a Crown Ward for the Children's Aid Society, I also know that the fear around the child welfare system to prison pipeline as well, where kids will leave care very early or unprepared through lack of education or a lack of housing or homelessness that might actually put them in the line of fire. This is also one of the reasons why the Ontario government, Liberal at the time, but now transferred over to the Conservatives, had started to take a look at the anti-racism directorate in 2017. And from there, they started to take a look at the mandatory for the criminal justice system, or the justice system overall, including incarcerated detention centers, everybody, including all police throughout Ontario, the child welfare system, every single one that's getting publicly funded. And then also the education system, to start taking a look at the collection of race-based data to try and identify systemic racism. And from there, kind of goes into some of the community development work that I was doing. So as I mentioned, the Black Coalition for AIDS Prevention. Throughout all of the work that I was doing, I was able to kind of utilize my artistic abilities, because people are going to, like, you got a fine arts degree, what the hell are you doing working with all of these places? But there are stories to be told around our experiences, and communicating those visually, either through digital storytelling, through photographs, through film, are ways that we are able to do that. So one of the projects that I started to work on that was just recently published was Because She Cares. And it was Dr. Lori Chambers' PhD that she took a look at key informant interviews with Black immigrant women who were working in the HIV and AIDS sector. And some of them were HIV positive, and then having to care for their sisters who might have been HIV positive, but what that care looks like from their standpoint. Because if they were back home, the care looks different. It looks like, if I have like 2 plantains, I'll give you one and you share one, where you have policies and procedures in organizations that says, there's a professional boundary that you have to maintain with your clients, and you can't break that. The city of Toronto, working at the community crisis response, on the crisis response team, I was seeing what the team did was within about 24 to 48 hours of a critical incident.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Is it possible you went over your time?
I'm so sorry. Yes. Okay, so I can wrap it up really quickly. Okay, so it's just talking about how race and the intersectional of community. So City of Toronto is one thing. The work that I did with the Black Experience Project and community engagement around that. And then lastly, the work that I've been doing around the Toronto Police Service. So I came in originally as a community engagement specialist, and then transitioned into an acting role of special project consultant. The main focus of the work that I've been doing is around the race-based data collection, of which June this year we'll have a release of our 1-year data. And then the work that I've been doing around gender diversity and trans inclusion project, which is actually taking a look at sexual diversity, non-binary, and making Toronto Police accountable to the community. It's a minutes of settlement of which Toronto Police officers as well as court officers had actually violated a trans man. And then there's a number of series of trainings that I'm helping to coordinate, and those are mandatory trainings in order to be able to show respect for individuals from the trans community, understanding intersectionalities between race, class, culture, all of those things in there as well. That's it.
Thank you so much, Rosanne. I know you have amazing things to share, but I know you went over time, but
I am so sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. The panelists, we're just gonna make sure that they wrap up their introduction. I want to give them, but I just want to say thank you so much. Don't go anywhere, because people will have questions. We'll leave the questions all together, if that's okay with everyone. Yeah. Like I said earlier, if people wanted to stretch, get water, just please help yourself do that. Thank you, Rosanne. Thank you so much. Right now, I'm just gonna quickly give to 2 minutes to 3 minutes, however, whatever you could share with us to the panelists. I will first go with, I would first go with Aniska. I don't know if Aniska is here. So Aniska, you can really share some of this, you know how this goes. It's more organic. We're having discussion. You're going to elaborate on things that you heard, either this discussion. I know you were here at the last discussion, and you can, quickly introduce yourself as well. And share, whatever personal things that you also want to share, but more focusing on today's navigating microaggression. And go ahead. Go ahead, Aniska.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Aniska. Nice to meet you guys. Okay, so I guess, as someone who identifies as like Black, I feel like for me, like anti-Black racism in the workforce has definitely like impacted like my life. I feel like I faced it like in 2 ways. So the first struggle is that I find that I trying to get the job. So I've always think that I struggle with job searching. A lot of like Black girls, I'm saying Black boys too, we tend to feel like we aren't qualified for like certain roles, or so we don't apply. It's like we discouraged just because we see so much qualifications and we're like, oh, maybe we can't do that. Or if we apply and get to the interview, we struggle with like our own like internal, I would say, microaggression, like so imposter syndrome, and we doubt ourselves even though we are fully qualified and we have the experience for that job. So like myself, I always tend to downplay my own qualifications and skills. And what I don't realize is that this is because, what I do realize is that this is because, like, as Black people, we have our own as Black people, we struggle with microaggression, systematic oppression, and from like intergenerational trauma. So like these affect us directly or indirectly by what we are told our whole life, that we're less than or we're undeserving of like certain success. So that has a lot to do with the job that we get. And also it has impacted us when it comes on to salary. Like I feel like a lot of Black people, we don't negotiate salary, or do we even know how to do so? We often feel like we get the job and we're just happy to get the job, so we don't want to bother them asking for more money, even though if it's just like if this happened to like a white person or a white woman, they're going to ask for more money because they know their worth, and they know their worth, so they're going to ask for more money. So this is something that I feel like we definitely need to overcome, and we need to know that we're like worthy of that job and like worthy of like high salary. Secondly, I feel like as Black women, we always tend to work twice as hard. That's like something that we just need to get over. We always like volunteering to do work when it comes on to, it's up to free, like I guess when it comes on to like race and equality, we're always volunteering. We always take on extra unpaid work, or we're working overtime and we're not getting paid for it. And like even at my own job, we noticed that like within our diversity and inclusion committee, it's made up of mostly racialized groups. Like it's us that, and like most of the work to do with like the diversity inclusion is like free work. We still have to do our own work every day, and then anything else to do with that, we have to do it on our own time. So it does become like exhausting when we're the one that's always trying to address like these microaggression, and then we're not getting promoted, or it's hard for us to move up when like it's like the other I wouldn't say a white person, feel like they just have to do like the bare minimum to get promoted or to get a job and all of that. Thanks.
No, thank you so much, Aniska. Like that's why we're here. We're not here to, talk about the good things. If everything is good, then we wouldn't have this session. Like I want that. I really want that. Like I think everybody wants this, right? Not to have things that we need to address because change has to happen, right? I think I'm gonna quickly go to our two other panelists that we're gonna have Professor. We have Professor Pablo with us, and then we'll open the questions. So before that, I'll go with Anab, and then I'll go with Arwa. So Anab, welcome, and then you could talk about also deep down into the hiring process and the
100%. I echo Aniska's sentiment. I was over here. If I could nod a million times, I could. And it just goes to show you, I think like our experiences are very much similar. Unfortunately, this is something that we come in whatever type of employment we're seeking, whatever organization we're trying to look for and organize with, no matter how great an organization is, there's going to have those slip-ups. It's going to like persist of microaggressions, especially if you find yourself being one of the only people there, or them trying to categorize us like along with POCs, where it's like, we have the token Black girl, we have the token brown girl, and kind of almost trying to justify like we have diversity, like this is physically what diversity looks like. And just echoing the sentiments about the hiring process, sometimes a lot of us are not even fortunate to even get to that process. It really stops at like, something as simple as our location that is in our resume, where we live, our last names, even our first names at this point. So sometimes a lot of us are not even fortunate to even be part of that interview process. And a lot of times we get filtered out and we kind of get stopped right then and there, just based on like lack thereof experience, maybe too much experience. This person is too qualified. Like, what if they come to us and ask for like more increase to their salary and so forth? And a lot of it has to deal with, you know, knowing our worth, but also understanding that sometimes we're just grateful to have that job, right? A lot of times we're just trying to make ends meet. And when we hear these conversations about, you know, so forth, usually, you know, talking about our white counterparts making 10K more than what we're making. And a lot of times we're doing more work. We never say no. We're always agreeing to tasks that are out of our control a lot of times. And what happens, we end up working overtime, and we're subjected to those conditions, right? So eventually what's the next step to even happen to that process is like we experience burnout, we're mentally drained, we're trying to ask for days off. But even the process of even asking for days off is like in and of itself is a task of negotiation, where you're trying to justify why you need time off, where is this coming from? Maybe if we can, instead of 2 weeks, maybe like 1 week and a half, or can we still contact you if anything was to happen in the case of an emergency? And I've noticed that like a lot of times that is, in our case, 9 times out of 10 what happens. And sometimes when you hear about those conversations, like if it was an emergency, why am I your point of contact? Why am I the person in that case, in an event that something does happen? Why am I responsible X, Y, and Z? And it goes back to the hierarchy process. Like we're easy to have tasks given to us, but when it comes to promotions, they're non-existent. When it comes to increase in salary and revisiting our contracts, that is not something that's even brought up on their ends unless we physically and like illustrate that and we talk to them about it. So sometimes we find ourselves compromising and saying, you know, is this something that I'm going to, you know, have to deal with constantly 24/7, the microaggression that exists in the space. And unfortunately, as time wears out, you kind of start to see those effects on you just kind of being in that space, let alone. And it kind of reminds me of those comments of like, you know, no one can tell me that Black women, Black men, Black people in our community are not pushing themselves and are not on the brink of breaking point, and they're not working hard enough. And it relates to some of the comments made, and I think most recently everyone knows, Kim Kardashian, Molly May, having those kind of comments of, you know, starting with Molly May, we have the same 24 hours as Beyonce. You need to work hard. You know, if you work hard, success will come. And that's coming very much from a place of ignorance. And when you hear that, like when I hear that particularly, it just aggravates me even more, because it's like, how can you insinuate that we're not working hard enough when you're not acknowledging the systemic oppression against us, when you're not acknowledging the microaggressions and the micro insults and so forth that we go through just to stay in a position, just to make sure that we're like covering our living expenses, in which Toronto is ever more expensive and the most expensive city. So like hearing those comments, it just kind of like reiterates to me, and it really is a red flag, because you hear some of that sometimes, like you don't want success because you're not working hard enough. You have the same 24 hours, you're lazy and you're not doing anything, and you're not like putting yourself out there, and you're not, you know, making sure you're established and so forth. So it's just, those are the most common like forms of microaggressions. And sometimes people like just kind of look at it and turn a blank eye and say, you know, you're completely taking it out of the wrong context. That's not what it is. And that's 100% what it is. Like you can't tell me that we're not working hard enough and we're not trying to put ourselves out there and achieving these successes. But oftentimes it comes to the point where we're breaking our backs for it. We're being burnt out. We don't have even the capacity to even be doing half the things we're doing, volunteering, working, making sure we're in all the training, we're caught up with everything that's happening in the field. So I think a lot of that really has to stem from a place of all of us collectively experiencing this, but also a common form and expression of microaggressions. Even that is even present in the interview and the hiring process, especially when you're talking to employers and they're kind of writing you off or sometimes downgrading some of those experiences.
Wow, I just have to say that, I'm sorry. Like I think you spoke for a lot of people. So thank you so much, Anna. That was really amazing. Like I said, we're not here to talk about these workshops. I'm not here to make people feel comfortable. It's for people to really see the reality, right? These are the reality that many Black communities do face. And I'm very happy that, what Anab said, what Aniska just said, and these discussions are very important, especially when people are especially Black community is continually asked to, volunteer. You'll get there, volunteer. Like, how long can somebody volunteer, right? But volunteering is good. I do it. I volunteer, I don't know, like 20 places, but that's not how people can sustain living. People can't continue volunteering to stay and take care of themselves and their families. So I think that is a way of microaggression and oppression or itself. So that itself needs to be examined. So thank you so much for really, when it comes to employment and when it comes to the economy, really, and the hiring process, a lot of things have to change. Take extra job because, basically, you did not say, I don't want to take it. And Aniska really touched on that, why a lot of people take extra work, because they feel like, they want the job, and they feel like if they don't, then who's gonna get cut first. So that is not fair. It's not fair. I think we're gonna go to our last panelist. Then I am excited because after that we're gonna have Professor Pablo Idaho. So please, Arwa, if you, Arwa, we're gonna have Arwa next. Hi, Arwa.
You guys hear me and see me?
Yes.
Can you guys hear and see me? Am I in the camera? I can't tell because I'm using my phone, so
no problem.
I hope you guys can bear with me. Like, you can see my whole face.
You know what? I'm using the screen, like I'm doing the screen.
Yes, we can.
Sharing.
Okay.
So the person who's doing that usually.
I just want to check in the chat. Okay,
Yeah.
so someone's saying we can hear you but can't see you.
I can see.
I've done enough orientation sessions. I just want to know. Okay, I'm gonna try to just hold my phone. I hope I'm not. You guys can't see up my nose. So you can see me. Do I look okay, guys? Like, I'm counting on y'all. Can I get some comments saying that you guys just don't see the lower half of my face?
Oh my God, I can see.
Thank you.
I can
Anushka,
see.
you're the best. Okay, Anna,
nice.
you're the best. You guys are awesome.
You trust me. I know you trust
me. Samira. You know what? I trust you, but I also like getting the input of everyone, because we all have different screens, different points of view. I acknowledge that. I've run orientation sessions at the University of Ottawa, so I've been through every single technical camera glitch known to man.
Yeah.
So,
no, yeah.
do not worry.
We see you.
I've been there. I've been there where you have to use Zoom and you're under the clock, you're under the gun, people are like, it's a live event just like this one right now, and you're like, I hope to God it works. So
thank you for joining us from Ottawa. Welcome.
Yeah, no problem, guys. So I hope you guys can be patient with my lines of thinking. I like to think that I think in this thing called epileptic trees. So I go on one and then the tangent goes off on a tangent. Then it starts becoming like angular momentum, like in physics, and it's just an orbit. And then hopefully I come back to the end. I'd like to think that I try to follow Dave Chappelle's point of view, where he like drops a story and he doesn't come back to the very end. So if you guys can bear with me, that's great. Everybody else who's been speaking, Rosanne, Anushka, and Anna, like, as you guys were speaking, especially Rosanne, like that was a very touching, I just want to give a shout out to you. That was a very touching video. And it's surprising how I heard the saying that the more personal something is, the more universal it becomes. And I definitely feel that way whenever I read any book that's in like the I point of view. I'm in that person's world. I can feel empathy. You could be a villain protagonist. I'll still feel bad for you because it's in your point of view, right? You may be able to see, this is the Dunning-Kruger effect. Absolutely. If you guys don't know what Dunning-Kruger, I highly recommend you just take your second device. I have a second phone, yes, and look it up. And the people who have seen this, in work, somebody who is very confidently incorrect, knows how infuriating it can be. And I've been subjected to that a lot. And I guess because I'm, as Dekla said, a kinesiology grad and a psychology grad because I was a personal trainer, and the human mind fascinates me. That we have the knowledge, we know, and yet there's a gap between what we know and what we do. And I think that you can have all the knowledge. You guys all know, everyone who's trying to lose weight or change their sleeping habits or not be, you know, tired all the time knows how this feels like. So, you know, I start all that to say that the people who I experienced, and I can only speak for myself, it's surprising how everyone else's experiences mirrors what I experienced over the last year. I describe it as Get Out with Office Space. I don't know if anyone's watched the movie Get Out with Jordan Peele. If anyone in the comments can like give me, I can't actually see reactions, so maybe everyone can say, yes, I have seen it. Yes. And you know, it's like a thriller, right? It's a horror satire thriller, but not really a satire because it's very symbolic, which is why we were all troubled by it. So I was going through that, and if anyone's watched Office Space, does anyone know, has anyone watched Office Space? Does anyone know about the red stapler in Milton? Yeah, Roseanne, like I feel like me and Roseanne were vibing right now. Like, can I just say that? I'm liking this. And I know I only have, oh wait, I have a timer, so I should probably turn that on so that I'm not taking too much time. But if you guys need to stop me, I have no problem being interrupted. Now, what I noticed in these experiences, and I guess, and I can't speak for everyone else, I can only speak for myself, is what led to it is why would they go out of their way to hire me? Even if I was a diversity hire as a token, I was being used, I'm still a human being, right? And I'd like to think that, you know, a racist is still a human being. They don't know they're racist, just like a narcissist doesn't know they're a narcissist, right? That's the whole point. So like someone who espouses racist beliefs, whether unconsciously or not, or has like unconscious bias that happens to be anti-Black, you know, they might not be fully aware of it, you know? And so, and that's me being, you know, I like to be very generous. So I hope you guys see like, oh, I should be in politics because I can spin anything to be like, hey, you know, someone falls, you know, at least you didn't break a tooth. But I wouldn't say it to somebody because I know how. So I do think they're aware. Yes, Anishka. Oh, they're very, like, I give people the benefit of the doubt. This is for my mental health because it doesn't help me if I know you did it on purpose. It's like, I went to Kona yesterday and was in the sauna, and, you know, they have the little timers to show how much time you've been in the sauna so you don't overheat and, you know, get dehydrated. So there's 2 sand glasses on each side, and I turn them up. And now 15 minutes will pass because the sand will go down the thing. And, you know, when I go there, because I'm a hijabi and, you know, I do like to practice, even though it's a co-ed place, I wear like yoga clothes and I'm ready to sweat. And I sit like a, you know, like a yogi, and I actually do yoga in it. And I hope it doesn't disturb anyone. But anyways, this woman goes in and she turns the hourglasses back down, thus like now it doesn't work anymore. And she just looked at me and we're like, a lot of things went through my head. I'm like, is it because I'm the only person in this room that's wearing longer clothing and a turban? Like I'm wearing more clothes. I don't know. A lot of things can go through my head. Maybe for her, it wasn't, I was the only Black person in there. It could be because I was Black, she did that. Or what does it benefit me to know why she did what she did? At the end of the day, it happened, right? So anyways, I hope I'm not going off on too many tangents. But point is, I saw that, and that just happened yesterday. And things like this happened at work. You know, the things that mystify you, and you're like, but why? Kind of like what Anab asked, why would somebody, oh wow, I'm almost done. I have 30 more seconds. Why would someone do what they're doing? So for me, I look at it as the hermit, the mother, and the warrior. And its impact on intentions, absolutely. And so the way that I approach it, because I can't always control their actions and their beliefs, I try to look at, okay, what can I do to protect myself from this? And you can have different perspectives. Some people see it as, you know, a game. Some people see it as a fight, and some people see it as a natural hazard to, you know, kind of like when I'm going to go up north, I'm going to wear a parka, I'm going to be ready for this, all these dangers. So, you know, and I'm still working for the same institution that caused these issues for me. So I hope, I would have liked to go into more detail, but I only had 2 minutes, and I see Deqa, you know, my time is up. But anyways, it was so nice to hear everyone. I hope I hope you guys could see where I was coming from, and I hope you guys have an awesome afternoon. And I hope you didn't mind just, listen to me on this Saturday. So thank you,
Yeah.
everyone.
Thank you so much, Arwa. She's like, I see Deka now. Deka became the timer. Once I have my camera on, it's like, okay, I think my time is over. Deka is gonna tell me to speed it up. But thank you so much, Arwa. And I think what you said, really, I think a lot of people can understand. There are ways where you feel like, and sometimes it's tiring. Like I think many of us had the same thing where we get so tired. Sometimes you're like, I'm not even gonna approach that. I had that. I really had that as actually student placement. Anybody who knows me know what I'm talking about. A student placement. I mean, I don't want to jeopardize my placement, but I felt like I either have to either do good and get that A or complain, and what's going to happen when you complain, right? You've been discriminated. And imagine you're a York University student, you're in a place where they took you in, but when you come in and you look different than what they hopefully expected that was coming in, it was painful. But you know what, when you have people around you that really tell you, you know what, you're bigger than that, you need to get that A, and you need to just come the other side healthy and safe. I think sometimes we choose battles. It is tough. And that's why we're doing this. And I'm glad I listened to those who spoke to me and came out the other side safe and healthy, because it was safe and healthy and go into God knows what, right? So I exactly know sometimes it's tiring, it's painful. You just have to, and it's not right. A lot of people say, no, Jaka, you shouldn't be doing that. But I'm sorry, like I am tired. And but again, there are times when we come back and we address those, because now we are not tired. We got rested. We came back and to speak about these issues, because these issues happen to us. Everybody that you speak to here, I think 3 or 4 of us just right here are alumni. And this does not just happen in one institution or one place at work. It happens everywhere. Right? So I am gonna, before we open the questions, I'm gonna call Professor Pablo. I don't know if you're here, Professor Pablo. I know we started before you. I'm so sorry, I apologize. But please, I would like you to come and say a couple of words, because we really do appreciate you so much. And your, are you?
He left. He left.
Oh, he did? I'm so sorry. But I did saw him just now.
Yeah, he left.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know Professor Pablo is really, really busy. But if he still, sometimes people drop and come back, we'll still have Professor Pablo.
Deca, so he left some kind words in the chat though, but he had to leave, he said.
Okay, I'm so sorry. It's just that I thought okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, so now is the part where we open the discussion. I would like to, if we have a question, we'll address the question. If we have, if we have people, I can't see anything. Does anybody have their hands up? Like,
I have something.
We have Yasmin Dini.
I think somebody else wanted to go first, so I'll let them go.
Oh,
you can
okay.
go.
Who wanted to go first?
You can go. Yes.
Oh, it's okay. Aniska is a panelist, so that's fine. Yasmin, you can speak, and if anybody wants to say something, please raise your hand. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much to everyone, both the panelists and the keynote speaker. I feel like I resonated with a lot of what you folks were saying. One question that I wanted to ask, and this is for everyone, is as a Black woman, I feel sometimes when I experience some sort of injustice and I want to address that injustice, I feel like I shouldn't, because I don't want to play into the angry Black woman trope that they have. And I feel like if I express what I'm feeling, they'll say, oh, you're exactly how you are. They may not say that directly to me, but they might think that I'm playing into those things. So I think many times that makes me stop. And I wanted to ask, what do you folks think? How should I respond in those situations, especially when I feel very nervous that I don't want to play into any tropes? Thank you.
I can start. So personally,
Go ahead, Aniska. Thank you so much.
For me personally, I feel like I'm one of those person, I'm going to talk up. Like if I feel uncomfortable in a situation, I don't care about the stigma of angry Black women. I have to talk up, but I do understand how you can feel in the workplace with certain experience. Like, I guess what I would say is pick your battles. Like if it's something that you can look past, you can maybe look past this one. But if it's something you really don't like, and it's something that it's like certain microaggression where they do it over and over, like at my, like, for instance, like for me, I've always get this like thing where someone told me that I'm like aggressive, like just the way I speak, I'm aggressive. And like at first I didn't say anything, but it was becoming so annoying that every single time she's saying that I speak aggressive, I had to tell her like stop saying I'm speaking aggressive. Like this is just the way I talk. So I guess can look past it at first, but it's like becoming so like you don't like it, say something, because they're not going to stop if you don't say something in some cases.
If I can add something, I found, and coming from a really political place like Toronto Police, and these things have come up, and I would recommend people document it. Document the date, document the time, document who said it, document who was around. And the reason why you're going to do that is because you're going to need a track record of being able to do that, whether it's a human rights case, whether it's a supervisory, whether it's a complaint process, document it. I found that I've had to go through the same thing, and I documented it, and I was proactive, and I said, okay, I'm going to talk to somebody. I'm letting you know as my supervisor, here's what I'm experiencing, and actually call out. Like I've had to call out in a meeting, whether there's tears or not, saying, I feel as if it's now having a narrative on me around the angry Black woman. And then the supervisor was like, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, I'm like, okay, but I've documented that I've said it, right? I've put it down in my notes that it's actually been said. And also when it comes up and you're feeling that when you're saying it, call it out and just like, you know what, I am concerned. And one of the ways of doing some of that to kind of help alleviate, and I've had to learn how to hold a whole new speech, is to put things in question. So are you saying that ... right? And then sometimes it's allowing them to see how stupid the question was. And then you just put it back on them. There's a book that a friend of mine had recommended. I'll put it in the chat, but it actually starts you off asking a lot more questions so that you are not considered to be the aggressor. And then you're able to actually have people kind of solve stuff themselves.
I know, Arwa, do you want to add some?
Oh, absolutely. I think I just wanted to echo what everyone's been saying, Anishka and Rosanne, especially Rosanne, the documenting part. So as you guys can tell, I'm an optimist, sometimes to my detriment, something I'm working on, people show you who they are, like believe them. So you guys are seeing my optimism. However, I'm also a note taker. As Adeqa said earlier, I am basically not a court-time reporter, but I go into classes with students and I write every single word that is being said. And I'm good at it. I'm good enough that I do it in the government. And I did that in all my meetings for work. Every single meeting, there I am just typing away, looking at my other screen, while they're monitoring my eye movement, saying that I might have ADHD because I don't look straight at the camera like a journalist. So while things happen all the time, and meanwhile, I'm documenting it. And I'm kind of like, in my point of view, and I think someone asked a question, when you're nervous, when do you ask, when do you speak up so you're not the angry Black woman? I was the opposite the entire time. I was cheery. I was like the optimist in Lemony Snicket's series of unfortunate events, Phil the Optimist. But because I was documenting everything, when my boss escalated it to HR, because maybe she thought that I was messing with her, I don't know. She told on herself, and then I just supplied, as Rosanne said, I already had the date, the time, who said it from the beginning, from January, and now it's September, and I have over 9 months of evidence to give to the Human Rights Office because I can back up everything. I have receipts, and that there's nothing more powerful than having receipts, guys. You know how that feels like when you know someone did something, you're like, it's kind of like what Colleen Rooney did with, I don't know if you guys follow, Football Wives in the UK, but there was a sting operation with Rebecca Vardy and Colleen Rooney where she found out who was giving all of her personal details to the paparazzi. She found out. So I'm saying when you document everything, you guys, a pattern will emerge, just like when you read a thriller, which is why I ascribe my experience like Get Out and Office Space, because it really hit me, like it hit me unawares, because I was like, oh my God, people are like this. I got a reality check. Just like we all had that moment of innocence. And then there's a moment where we had our reality check that all the great things they say about our Constitution and not Constitution, sorry, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms are not in America. They're ideals. It doesn't mean that we're there yet. So I don't know, like I don't know if my little tangent helped at all, but thank you for listening to my observation.
Oh, absolutely, you're right. Like these are, we wanted to have a place where everybody is respected, but then that's not the reality. We know for some of us, it's not. Listen, I'm when you're in university and you're one of the older people in the university, you're not dumb that you cannot tell what's happening, or at work. Like I've been to a place of work where I'm like, okay, this is totally wrong. But especially for young people, it could be very painful, very stressful, very confusing, because when you really don't know what is happening, but the feeling doesn't feel right, right? So I really understand and I appreciate that. I don't know if Anup added. Anup, do you want to add that?
Yeah, no, I'm echoing everyone's sentiments down the line. I think like Rosanne, like, and Arwa, that documenting is a first for me. I don't know why. And I just want to say maybe it's for a first everyone. No, but like really, like sometimes I'm also the type of person, like Anissa said, sometimes I pick my battles, and sometimes there's like so much I already have to do on my plate. And I'm like, I just want to come here and get my work done. But I know that's like a valuable piece of information that you shared. That is something that, and I'm also a note taker as well. That's the most ironic thing. Is like, I love documenting. So I need to start documenting the right things and putting it down, because having that months and months, like I can't imagine like their reaction, like, wow, like you're actually like, yeah, you actually have this information in front of you. Like, I didn't think you were that type of like person. I thought you were coming with frivolous claims, so to speak, is probably what they're thinking in their mind, and that it's going to be passed down.
I know. I don't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to add that that's literally what happened with me. Like they thought I was just happy-go-lucky. They thought that my kindness was weakness. And then I taught them, no, I have been documenting you guys from the beginning. Here you go. So anyways, I just wanted to say it feels very good just seeing the faces when they're like, psych, I gotcha.
I'll be very honest as well. They are also documenting it. Don't get that twisted, because they will also have the documentation. So experience with me, somebody went and told that this is what I was doing. But because I had put in a claim to my manager first, then when they came to me and said that, we did like a whole, mediation. And I was able to say, these are all the times. And they're like, I didn't know. And I'm like, how could you have not known? But don't get it twisted, because when you come off as the angry Black women, they are also documenting it, and they're going to the supervisor. And so when your supervisor has come to you, it's not the first time that they're hearing this. So please don't think that it's okay, let me not do it, I'll bypass it. Even if it's you just jot it down in your phone or something, right? Honestly.
No, I
Thank you so
agree.
much. You guys cover that amazing. Thank you so much. I hope Yasmin got the answers that you were looking for. We're gonna take one more question. I know the time is up. We're done. Thank you, Yasmin. You're welcome. If we can get like one more question. I can't believe we completed the time. It's now 3:30. Yay, and we thought we would go over because we don't want to make people stay longer because you gave us your time today, and we want to respect your time, and we appreciate. Time goes by. Yes, Samira, time goes by so fast. I feel like is there a question in the chat? Sorry, I can't even read anything. I can't even see anything. No, I think everybody probably is good for today. We have, of course, we have the last workshop event, April 29th, April 9, same time. We will share the link. And I think this has been an amazing discussions, having keynote speakers to come in and have, a lived experience, panelists that are either current, that are alumni, and then having always inviting somebody outside of York. I mean, we try to keep this as a more like York community, but then we'll have like at least one person outside of York, because we all don't live in York. There's a life outside of York, right? So, and that's where, Arwa came in today. And then I think last week we have Alasis, who works in our city. So I think these discussions will continue. Hopefully, Founders College will find some way to continue, hopefully after we finish these series, and then hopefully in the future, and how York and our faculty, liberal arts and professional studies. We also thank the people that came today. We hope you guys join us next session. Please do share with your networks, especially faculty, other students. We do have TAs that teach Black students. We have, I know professors usually are busy, but I think these discussions they're also recorded. So they're recorded too. So which means, people can find time and then go back and watch it. That's why we record it, because we feel like so many people put so many time, and we don't want that time to and the experience not to be lost, because this is very important topic. And I want to close it by thanking the organizers. Thanks to, I know Asha is not here, but I also want to say thank you, guys. Say thank you to Samira. Samira was watching the chat. Thank you, Samira, for volunteering. I was your facilitator for today, Dekan Noor. I also want to thank our keynote speaker, Rosanne Bailey. Thank you so much, Rosanne. I also want to thank our panelist, Anna. I also want to thank Aniska and Arwa. And last but not least, but we cannot listen without Marco, Professor Pablo, Marco, and Evie. They are the really sort of like the backbone of what this series. Without them, this series would not happen without Professor Pablo, Marco, and Evie, because they really, most of us either student or alumni, we don't have the capacity and we don't have the to really put this together. So that shows that when we collaborate, the faculty, when we collaborate with like Founders College and organize student-led initiatives, that could benefit either York, and our York community. We would reach the goals that we want to set for our, not just York, but our York community. I think we wrapped up today. If we don't have any more question, I just want to give it to Marco, and then I will close the session. Hi, Marco. I know Professor Pablo was not here, but you can say a few words about Founders College. And yeah, go ahead, Marco.
Oh, well, thank you, Decca. I first I wanted to say thank you for your kind words. Really, Pablo, Ife, my role is really minimal. It's really your and your fellow volunteers' hard work that have put these workshops together, and it's really been our pleasure to just support you in these efforts. Unfortunately, as you know, Pablo had to step out a little bit early, but just on his behalf and on behalf of everyone at the college, we just wanted to thank Rosanne, Aniska, Anab, Arwa, just for all your hard work, for everything that you've done, not only for this panel, for the previous panel, and the work that you're putting into the next panel as well. And so just a big thank you for bringing this issue and this topic to light, and for having just a really wonderful forum to allow people to learn with and from each other. So just a big thank you to all of you.
Oh, thank you so much, Marco. You and Founders College have been a really big support, not to just this initiative, but to really all the students that are involved. Yep, and I think we are done our workshop for today. I just want to say thank you, everyone, and